But anyways, how you doing, Natan? How you doing?
Yeah, good, man. Thanks for having me on the podcast. This isn't my first time on the podcast, but it's good to be back and be back on the pod. But this is the first time in Germany. It's
Yeah.
my first time here, and it's just every day I'm learning something. So it's and not like I had any negative preconceptions of Germany. I've heard many good things and many just the history of it and stuff. I mean, I've heard bad things like in general
Yeah.
of the of the of in the like of the like last 100 years, but in general, yeah, it's just all learning, all day, every day learning. Just going to just random historical sites, random tours, museums, all of it, and yeah, it's I think in subconsciously it's something I wanted to do. I wanted to learn more because there's only so much learning you can do by yourself and on books and stuff like that. And unless you actually go there and see it and talk to people and stuff like that, only then can you actually learn about the history and the people's history and just people in general and culture. Yeah, yeah, it's eye opening.
So what was like the shocking thing you've learned so far since you've been in Germany?
Well, I'll tell you this on I mean, you were there, but on stage, I had jokes, and the root of all my jokes of Germany were my preconceived notions of Germans.
Mm.
So it was about what I thought Germans were like. That was the root. And when I started telling these jokes, I remember I could tell that this is not. Some of this is not true. Like German guilt. I remember I always
Yeah.
thought Germans had guilt, and I remember I said this a few times at shows, and I legit just asked young people. I said, "Do you have German guilt?" And every single young person said no. And it's not a slight on them, but I noticed that that's like it's just a generational thing, and the their parents are the ones that had it. You
Mm.
know, so whenever I would talk about like, "Hey, you guys got German guilt," that's like a fucking. That's like when Brooklyn comics go like, "Hey, fucking Brooklyn's getting gentrified." It's like it's been getting gentrified since the '90s. Like, you remember that movie, Do the Right Thing?
Yeah.
Like, remember that scene where there was that white guy that was going up
Yeah.
the brownstone in the Celtics jersey,
Right.
and Spike Lee's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh no, I've been here." It's like that movie came out in the '90s,
Yeah.
and now people are still talking about, "Hey, Brooklyn's getting gentrified." It's 30 years. You're still telling the same joke. That's like if I started going. That's what I started sounding like.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, you guys got German guilt." They're like, "Dude, it's been almost 100 years. Why do you keep talking about this?" So I found that very, very interesting, very educational. That I'm like, guilt and association with your country's history kind of detaches more and more, and I think that happens with it seems like that's a good thing. You know,
Yeah.
it seems like that's a good thing.
I think so. I mean, given the past and also not being tied too much to it, it gives
Yeah,
you freedom, so
yeah,
that you don't come in the door and be like, oh, you're this, and this. It's like,
yeah.
or I like playing Jenga,
Yes,
or like, like these weird things. I like anime or something. And it's just
yes.
like, oh, you're not supposed to.
Yes. There's a big thing now, and I think it's always been like that, where like just us as people, we just get stuck in the past so much that it prevents us from just going forward. And
Mm,
I think just that doesn't even apply to Germans. That applies to anybody now. Like the wars that are going on,
mm,
people are just like, "You're Russian, so that means you're this," and it's like, okay, now this is going to be this generation that's going to be impacted by that.
mm-hmm.
I always thought for some reason we'd move past this, but it seems like we always go like two steps back when it comes to shit like that.
Mm,
Where, um, I think it has to do with like, is my conspiracy theory, where it has to do with like
okay.
the people up top that are kind of like, here's all right, here's
Conspiracy. Well, I
you
mean,
want, you want
we're
to hear
two
this?
comedians on a podcast, so
You want to
it's
hear?
going to be a conspiracy. So,
So I read a stat.
uh,
You remember Occupy Wall Street?
Yeah.
2000 after the housing crisis.
Yeah,
It was
like
like
oh four
2000.
or 5.
No, no,
No,
no.
no, it's like
Even later. Even
oh,
later.
right.
This was even later. Like after the housing crisis, they were like the banks because of what they fucked
Yeah,
up the system. So
right.
they're like, the banks are at fault. We need to go. We
Mhm.
need to go to these parks, Zuccotti Park. We
Yeah.
need to go and we need to like tell them you got to change the fucking system. And then it got fucked because it's what happens with people in general.
Mhm.
These everybody's like for like 2 weeks it was a good system. They were like the banks suck. Fuck these people.
Right.
Can I curse on this?
Yeah.
I don't know if this censors it's
Now you can
YouTube.
curse on
All right.
this, yeah.
Fuck the banks,
Yeah.
right? The banks suck. They fucked us with the housing crisis that made, subprime mortgages, all that shit. Change this. 2 weeks later, it just became the laziest fucking people came to these parks and they're like, yeah, work sucks. Oh, I live with my mom and I don't want a job and you should pay for it's like this is the human condition. It's like once it's good, these fucking losers just come over and just fuck up a good thing, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of died
Right.
because of that. Because these smelly fucking homeless people ruined a good. Because they took pictures of these people and they were like to the world. They were like, "Look at these people. These are the people that are complaining about banks." And then everybody just like, "Well, yeah, you got to work." But it's like that's not what they were trying to do. They were trying to go, look, we need to change the system, the root of the system. And you guys are taking pictures of bums that smell like shit. They smell so bad that when you take a picture, you can see the fucking smell in the image. That's how bad it was. So then, after that, if you do a word counter, someone did this in the newspapers before, like right after the housing crisis, that all this shit happened. They did a word counter of, like how many times did trans issues or civil rights, like stuff like that, like divisive issues get mentioned in the newspapers and stuff like that. The counter was not that high before the banking and all that stuff. The counter went up like 100x after that. Because, and this is my conspiracy theory,
Okay, conspiracy.
they don't want people to do that again because they think that if the poor people actually come by and like join forces, bums and fucking CVS workers or whatever the fuck.
Also, also other people. Yeah.
Yes, all of the poor people. There's more of us. So that once we combine, we can actually take down a system. They don't want that. So what they do is they start going like, hey, trans people exist. Do you have a problem with this? Yes, no. Hey, what is it? What's another one? Racism. Even now in America, some people don't even acknowledge that racism exists. They're like racism, the South versus that shit. Then now the Middle East, hey, Jewish, Palestinian, Muslim, all that shit. So it's like and Trump. Trump was great for like dividing the country. So every 2 to 3 to 4 years, there was like a new thing, and they figured out how to divide the country even more. So now, if you see a Democrat or a Republican, you will think, okay, a Democrat is pro civil rights, but not only that, he's pro trans, he's pro this, he's pro that. So it's like it used to be Democrat was just like a financial thing or like civil, but now it's become like fucking abortion. That's another thing, when Roe v. Wade got overturned.
Right.
So that's my conspiracy theory, and which is probably not that much of a conspiracy. It's actually just this is happening.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like how different type of movements or so are kind of coalesced to each, like bunched together, and like how if you make a choice, you're kind of assumed to have all these other alignments or whatever.
Yeah.
That is something that makes it more complicated. It kind of goes back to that. If you're from, like for example, if I'm African, right? There's like some, just some assumptions or so, which some are correct, but then others are not as one to one. Like just because I'm West African doesn't mean this. and kind of not having that nuance in there, you know? So it's like, all right, some African culture, yes, like, you know, there's some things that I do, but there's some other things that I don't.
Yeah.
And I think that nuance, especially for like people to like, because nuance is such a unnerving thing, you know?
Because you got to read.
Yeah. I mean, I even read. No, it's just like an actual, it's kind of like, 'cause I learned this with acting, right? Where it's like, in order to play like a bad character, the first thing you got to do is not think of this person as a bad character. Like you have to humanize this person, and to do that actively, it takes like there's people that got to go to school, like as an actor, like to actually learn how to on paper this person who textbook is bad to humanize this person, to play as this person,
Right.
or to step in their shoes. So that's like a human mental like exercise to be like, okay, this person is this, and I do not like what this represents. But as a person, something else, which is like a, you know, it takes energy and shit. You know, and the person might be an asshole actually. So then you're like, but all right, like, look, I'm trying my best here, and on top of it, now you being like whatever. But all right, so before we go into that though,
I'm sorry, I got into this third culture and I started talking about conspiracies right away.
Well,
but it's not really a conspiracy. But
well, I mean,
which is what conspiracy theorists say. This isn't really a conspiracy. I mean, you don't see it. That's what all of them say. That shit.
Well, I mean, look, some conspiracies are cultural to some extent, right? Like, I mean, you know,
I guess you're right.
You know. So, but anyways, so before we get into more conspiracy theories, let's just set the base standard or so, just to see where you coming from.
Yes.
So you was born in New York? Oh no, you was born in Uzbekistan.
No, born in Uzbekistan, and then left when I was 1. So all my memories are American. You know,
okay.
American memories,
American memories,
thoughts. You know? So I left. We left from Uzbekistan. So it was like 1.5, like 93. I always say on podcasts like it's a different age, but my mom said, "Why do you keep saying you left when you were like 4 or 3 or 5?" And I'm like, "Does it matter? I was a baby. I don't remember. I can just make this age up."
Right.
So when I was a baby, I left, and you want to know the whole story?
Oh
yeah, this is because the former Soviet Union collapsed, and Uzbekistan is there's a lot of Muslims there. So as it gained independence, Muslim fundamentalism started rising. So then anti-Semitism started rising, which is something you're going to get a lot of clicks on from me just saying the word anti-Semitism.
All right.
But I'm just saying this is what happened.
Yeah.
So then we left after that. And so then we came to the States, and I've been there ever since. I remember what was interesting was that I did a show in front of Uzbek people. They're Jewish, but by the way, I'm Bukharian as well. I should say that. I'm Bukharian, which is like our name comes from the city of Bukhara, which is a city in Uzbekistan. And we have Persian roots. Like we're from many centuries ago. That's why I have like Persian features.
Okay.
And Bukharians speak Persian. Bukharians speak Farsi, which is a dialect which has Persian in it. So when an Iranian can hear Bukharians speak, they can basically understand what they're saying.
Oh wow!
So Bukharians actually, at the time, from what they spoke Russian, which is the Soviet national language,
right?
Uzbek, which is their language, and then what is it? Russian, Uzbek, and Farsi. So 3, and probably even more, because I remember there's Tajik, because they're all neighboring countries. Tajik, Kazakh. These all have their own language.
But still underneath that Persian, like like not Farsi, but
no.
Okay.
No. Uzbek, Tajik, Kazakh, all it's separate. They have their own roots and all that. That I don't know about.
Okay,
I don't know about, because I think my grandma spoke Uzbek and my granddad spoke Uzbek, but it wasn't a necessity, because Russian. If you're Soviet Union, Russian. That's why I speak Russian.
Yeah.
Because my mom speaks to me in Russian, and that's like If you want to put, oh, I thought that was a red thing.
No, no, no.
If you want to put colonized, whatever,
Mhm.
they're the main country, so that's why they wanted everybody to speak Russian.
Right.
I don't know how it is now. I heard that they mostly speak Uzbek now because they want
Mm.
their own identity and they want their own, kind of, they want to kind of be removed
From the USS, yeah, or
the
Russia, yeah.
USSR. I don't know. I don't know how it. I heard it was very developed now. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
yeah.
because I think you actually met her, Dinara. She comes from
Dinar, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. She's from
Kazakh.
Kazakhstan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kazakhstan. I talked to another woman who's from Kazakhstan too,
Yes.
and I think like it was something about like the language coming from the same, like what Latin, like
Yeah.
Latin is like another type of, so like
Yes.
those regions have like some type of language that aligns us, not aligns itself, but it's part of like even Farsi and other things, or
Yeah.
like as a part of that tree. I
Well,
think.
yeah. I mean, I sometimes I hear Ukrainian and it sounds like Russian, so I'm sure the root is kind of the same.
Yeah, No, is it Slavic or
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
I don't know what it. I don't even know what it's called. Actually, it's not in the Slavic language. It's like Slavic something. I
Like
don't
the
know.
root?
Yeah,
Oh.
like there's like like the Latin. It's like Latin. There's Slavic. There's Germanic.
Ah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
those
yeah.
type of
Like a
like
Romance language with Spanish and French and
yeah.
Italian and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's that's well, what else can I tell you about Bukharian culture? I
Mm,
mean, I am a representative of it, but the
mm,
problem is that like I left. So it's not like I can tell you much from memories. The only memories I have are like I'm when I speak to other Bukharian people, it always seems like they're more Bukharian, which is the common like immigrant thing where you're not third culture. This is the
yeah.
definition where you don't really feel like you fit in your tradition, or and you don't feel like you fit in your actual land where you were raised.
Hmm.
So I meet Bukharians all the time, and they kind of look at me like I'm an American, which I'm fine with, and I
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
understand that.
Right.
I don't really feel ashamed of it. I used to not talk about being Bukharian on stage because I felt that way, where I'm like, well, I'm not that Bukharian.
Mm,
But at the same time, it's like that's a definition you put in your own head. That's
yeah.
not. It's you are whatever you feel like you are. So then I started talking about it on stage, and Bukharians were like, "Yeah, this is fine."
Yeah. So it's all good.
Yeah,
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 and if anything, they probably, I think like there's always, not always, but maybe also having that same feeling of, because also for me, like my family from West Africa,
yeah,
Liberia, and then me being born in America,
yeah,
and then like, um, I don't know if you experienced it too, but like, definitely my name,
yeah,
the way I spoke at the time,
yeah,
like if
yeah.
I say I was from America, people were like, no, you're not.
No, no,
Yeah,
no.
they'd be like, no, you're not. Like, because I did everything about me, 'cause I was so close to
Yeah,
that like culture,
yeah,
like literally I was the firstborn in America, that like the way I acted, move, everything. It was to the point that people from Liberia thought I was from there. So
yeah,
it's like in a weird type of space. I don't know if you ever had that, like in terms of when you met like another Baharian person,
yeah.
or someone from that region, they saw you how you spoke or something, and then they assumed you was from there, or vice
Well,
versa.
I the stereotypes of Bukharians are not good. They're, they're
Oh.
a lot of people. They're always like, you ever see Italian Americans?
Hmm.
That's what people think of Bukharians. That
Oh
they're
wow.
they're loud. They have gold chains. They have sweats and stuff like that. They are very brash and stuff. So when they see me, I remember one guy I had. Bukharians are known to be barbers because
Oh.
it's a quick trade to get into, and
Hmm.
also it's cash.
Mm.
So it's the reason for that, and also dentist because there's a specific reason for that. It's because the water in Uzbekistan was so bad that when you drink it, it's contaminated, so your teeth get fucked up. So that's why when people from Bukharians in Uzbekistan they came to America, they knew that they would get clientele of their own country. So
Wow.
they would be like, "Let me be a dentist. It's more money." So then they would become dentists, and they would, you trust your fellow countrymen more. So that's why they would go to them. So that's why they would be dentists or barbers, and sometimes jewelers. That would be another, but that's a Jewish thing.
Okay.
So this barber, I remember I was just sitting quietly waiting my turn, and he's Bukharian, and then I sit down and it's my turn, and I don't say anything because I'm just waiting. And then he goes, "Where are you from?" I go, "I'm from Uzbekistan." He's like, "Oh, me too." And I go, "Yeah, I'm Bukharian too." And he goes, "Oh, really? You act Japanese the way you're quiet and you're you're all this."
Why would he say that?
Because he's Bukharian. They don't really have a filter. They don't they don't really say seriously, yeah.
Not just quiet, but a whole
Yeah, yeah.
a whole country.
Yeah, yeah. I would have thought you were Japanese. Yeah.
Not quiet, but
Yeah, yeah.
whoever's quiet is from this country.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, when meeting other Bukharians, I mean, they're usually in New York. They live in we live in Rego Park, Forest Hills, right? But
Mhm.
I grew up in Jackson Heights, which is kind of removed from it. So when I went to Forest Hills High School. I'm giving you the whole fucking
Yeah, hey, I
biography.
mean, well, it's
But
cool.
when I went to Forest Hills High School, that's when it's like half of the school is Bukharian, half of them. And when I met them, I remember I remember my mom speaks to me like there's a big emphasis on education and manners and all this other stuff. So that's what I just assumed. I go to Forest Hills High School. They're saying words that I don't get, and apparently these were all curse words, and I didn't even know these were curse words because my mom never spoke to me this way.
Oh
So
wow.
they started saying stuff like when we were playing the gym and the guy didn't pass the ball, it was like "Pedro, blядь, chё ты делаешь?" Right? And I told my mom, I'm like, "What is that?" And she was like shocked. She was like, "Why? Who taught you this word?" It means like pedophile or asshole or something like that.
Wow.
Blядь, because they
Oh,
always say "blядь" means shit.
yeah.
So then they always end their sentences that way. Uh,
Interesting.
but you're considered not a cultured person if you don't speak like if you speak that way. You're like a guy on the street or something like that.
Mm.
So my mom was shocked when she probably thought like, "Oh, you're gonna learn with Bukharians," but she probably was like, "Oh my god, they're teaching you the worst things and
Damn, I need to
stuff."
take him out to school.
Yeah, yeah. So, but it was fine. I mean, you meet the people that you meant to connect with. I have a few Bukharian friends. But Jackson Heights, that's the most diverse place in America.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, like legit, statistically.
Statistically, yeah.
Hmm.
Per capita, the most nations in any out of any American city.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jackson, yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, Jackson Heights is
Yeah.
in Queens, New York City.
Yeah, yeah. It's good
Um,
food, good but that's a good thing if you're an immigrant. I don't want to say hide, but you kind of like you being different is not a big deal.
mhm.
So I never felt like out of place because I would play soccer with people, football, soccer with the people from Bangladesh, Pakistan, Colombia, Guatemala, whatever the fuck, all of it, and it was fine. We would all make fun of each other from where we're from, but it was
Yeah.
equal opportunity, and I would have friends from everywhere. So if anything, me being with Bukharians was the first thing where I was like, "Oh, you're." Like when I was in high school, I was like, we're the same. We're from the same place. We have common ancestry and stuff like that. So that's something um, I experienced when I went to high school
Mhm.
more.
Yeah, but before high school, you just like kind of with everybody. It was like just all
Yeah, yeah,
mixed and everything.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a good thing. And
Oh yeah, very good. Yeah.
I think that's a good thing about living in New York because it just different colors, different you know sexualities, different everything. It's commonplace, so you're not like taken aback by anything or anybody,
Yeah.
which is similar to Berlin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Berlin is it is definitely different. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's everything here. Everything here. And everybody seems to I mean, I don't know. I've been here for a week, so I don't know. I don't know. Everybody
Yeah.
from the way I see it, it seems like everybody seems to be like getting along to a certain extent,
Yeah.
like New York.
Yeah, I'd say that also what adds to it is that is not as capitalistic. I mean, if anything is
Oh yeah.
like, so that's like one that is actually kind of crazy because especially when you like when you grow up in a place like New York City or
Yeah.
you born there, me
Yeah.
just living there for a while. that you don't realize that it's like another way of life or so.
Yeah.
Like you read it in a book, but like to actually like be in a place where it's like free, open,
Yeah.
has some elements of New York City or other cities in America, and then still be like mostly socialist.
Yes.
It's like very like, all right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's not predatory.
Yeah, I won't even call it predatory. It's more like because even there'd be simple things, kind of like, all right, hey, you have a business, like, hey, so don't you want some money? Nah, it's okay.
Oh.
You like this kind of beer, I like this kind of beer. So yeah, you could do your thing here, and it's kind of like, so based on the like, so is it even like even to that small level of being like, so how you start asking like, how do you like whatever? Because I like the same beer, like, all right,
You're judged based on like, I guess, your character and you having like ethics and stuff like
but
that.
like that's like the main one. So like even when you go into like an apartment, doesn't even matter. You can have thousands of dollars more than the other person.
Yeah.
If you're not cool, they don't like, people are like, nah.
Yeah.
So then, in New York, it's like, it's all about, I mean, most places in the country, you buying a house, you get outbid. That's a common thing.
Yeah.
Here, they're like, who are you?
Yeah.
And then based on, which is jarring as an American, because we're all conditioned to be based on the money or the value you can provide more than someone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then when you hear it, it's kind of like, man, but who are you? Oh yeah, those same sweatpants, man. My mom had those same sweatpants, man. Yeah, actually, you can stay here. You're like, all right, yeah, thanks.
They care more about who's in their community. There's community thinking. I don't think there's any of that in New York.
There is, but then there's still like that. We've been raised to have that competitive thing economically, which, I mean, look, there has pros and cons to it. Like now living here for a while, I can see like where the pros and cons like come in. I mean, obviously it's a system, any system can be exploited, right? But yeah, I would say with Berlin, in that diversity, having that not being interwoven in the society is actually something that makes it more like diverse in a way that I don't think New York, because at the day, New York City, man, it's like, you still striving to be the best. Like,
Yeah.
you're trying to be better than.
Yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, it's like, after a while, you just kind of want to live your life. You don't really want to. Why do you have to compete all the time? I'm 32 now, and even now, I'm kind of tired of like hearing the stories of New York, like of people like going ahead just because they have money, and I'm like, what is this, man? Like, it's just the common story every single time. It's like money, 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 and eventually you just go like, I don't want to be a part of this. But you can't
Yeah.
opt out unless you move. If you're in America, you have to have money, and it's not an option to not have it. It's
Yeah.
you know but I guess, like you said, there's a lot of negatives probably in this system which I don't know about. But this is the thing I had a thought of. I think I told you this, where like the healthcare. There's a common complaint in European socialized healthcare, in
Mhm.
London too, where they're like, "Oh my god, I gotta wait like a year, or I gotta wait 6 months for an appointment or some shit." It's like, yeah, we don't have to wait because we need it right away. Our food is poison,
Yeah.
right? We're all fat. We're fatter than we should be. We're all like 3 croissants away from being diabetic, right?
3
so so it's like we have all these things against us
Yeah.
as a human. I mean, how many fucking stories do you hear about like these, like, oh, we have to recall this chicken because we found out there's like lead in it or something like that. I mean, every month there's a
Yeah.
new one, and it's too late. We ate the food. There's a whole epidemic of us having microplastics in our bodies. It's like in
Yeah.
my balls right now. I got but this, I'm not saying this as a joke, but another conspiracy theory is like this leads to like shit for our kids. Like if we got plastic in our balls, that means we're jizzing out plastic. But that's bad. I'm serious. But this is bad for our kids. Like, how do you know this doesn't affect our children?
Right.
And so we have all of that, right?
Mhm.
Of course we need healthcare faster because we're about to die like every day. So it's just stuff like that where therapy, like I remember in London, someone told me you have to wait. First of all, they said you have to tell them your problems. You have to
Mhm.
tell a doctor, and it has to be drastic. You can't just say I have anxiety, and they'll just be like, okay, who gives a fuck? They'll be like, I want to do something to myself or something like that.
Right.
But again, it's like we in America, we all have these anxiety, we all have depression,
Mhm.
rumination, suicidal idea, all this shit. And people don't ever, they always go like, oh, it's me. It's like I'm feeling this. It's like, no, the root of why you're feeling this is because you're eating poison and you have no health care and you can be
Yeah.
homeless soon. And it's like, this is why you're anxious. It's not because it's not because of the like, oh, your dad did something to you. It's
Yeah.
yeah, you have every right to feel anxious. It's because there's a lot of things that are about the system that's broken.
Mhm.
Um, so that's why I keep going back to conspiracy theories, but
Yeah.
that's why I think there's such a big emphasis on therapy in America because it kind of like lets you avoid going back to Wall Street, lets you
Mhm.
avoid coming together and going against the people that are actually messing with the people.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah.
Here, I don't see that.
Yeah, I mean, there are some things. I mean, again, I've been only here for a year, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But there are some like things of. I mean, there's a big Amazon building that's here or something like that, right? So like that
Oh,
is
okay.
like once Amazon is somewhere, that's the spearhead of like capitalism right
Yes,
there. The
yes.
minute you have an option to get something,
Yeah. 2 days,
2 days
1 day.
in
Yeah,
instead of a week
yeah,
later, I mean, that's already.
yeah,
And for a human being to be like, no, I won't get this earlier. I'm
yeah,
gonna wait for a week. Nigga, I'm like, no, are you yeah,
yeah,
2 days?
yeah,
I can get it. Yeah, I'm click.
yeah.
Like I only got paid this many euros. Boom.
Yeah.
And
Is it
then
becoming popular here?
oh, well, what? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Amazon Prime, that is a thing. And then like obviously the subscription services and stuff,
Yeah.
which I mean, that's like its own pros and cons and
Yeah.
stuff to that. Yeah, I think it's something actually now interesting to be in Berlin to see how capitalism is extending. And then because with capitalism, we usually choose and pick which is good and bad, right? Like
Yeah.
like all of this has been provided mostly by capitalism, right?
What?
Phones, the laptop,
Yeah.
this, my shoes,
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
everything, right? Um, and also then being in a place where, like, for example, like basically the uncapitalistic thing that happens here that's very common is like things are closed on Sundays, right?
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
being
I
like, at
noticed
first
that.
it's kind of like, "Grr," and then it's
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, wait,
Who cares?
yeah, it's like, all right, wait, well, this is actually,
Yeah.
they should take a break. Like,
Yeah.
do I need this food all the time? Do I
No.
need this? Oh,
No.
so yeah, it's like back to those things of where you're confronted with certain things where you're
Yeah.
kind of like, "Oh, why is it closed on Sundays?" And then I even put on social media, they're like, "Yeah, why would it be open? So
Yeah.
people should relax." I'm like, "Yeah, but what
But
about the wages?" They're like,
yeah.
"No, they're doing good. They get
Yeah.
enough. They go by." Oh, all right, I guess
I'm used to it.
I guess I will just get my groceries on Monday. It's
Yeah.
like, just wait,
Yeah.
just wait.
I mean, even the Bible says that you need
Yeah,
a day off. So they're
right.
just listening to what God said. You
Yeah,
know?
they're more religious out here than us, even even here in Berlin.
I mean, it makes sense. Yeah. I mean, we're used to all that stuff. We're used to everything being available all the time, which I think is, I guess, not good. But that's kind of funny. Like if Amazon just said for 1 day we're not doing that, just to see in America how they'll react.
Yeah.
Like you gotta wait a week for your packages or whatever. That's the
Uh,
only time you'll actually get people
you,
together.
they're like, whoa, hey,
Yeah, it's like I thought we're talking about real shit. I gotta get my whatever,
I need
my
to get my iPhone
lotion.
so I can talk about this real shit on
Yeah,
TikTok.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I didn't even realize I'm starting to sound like a socialist now, where I'm talking shit about like the system and shit like that. I usually make fun of these people, and then I just ended up becoming one or
Yeah, I mean, once
sounding.
you come visit and you actually live in a place, you're kind of like, huh, I did not know life can be this way.
Yeah, I used to. I don't like when I see foreign, but yeah, I guess foreign comics come to America and talk
Mhm.
shit about our system.
Yeah.
And I'm like, get the fuck out. Like, what do you? Why do you keep talking about it? It's like
Mhm.
nobody told you to come here.
Yeah.
But now that I see where they're coming from in terms of like how the government can be, it is quite, or what it's capable of. It is it's good to see that certain things do work better in other countries.
Mhm.
It does show you how broken of a city. I mean, especially New York. I mean, like
Bro, it does.
I unequivocally do think that it is like a broken. The infrastructure, everything about it is completely broken. Like subways, to even say like, hey, can you do something about the rats? That's like a weird, like, why are you not? There's like certain Instagram pages that like show New York and they're like, "Oh, New York is crazy." I'm like, "This isn't normal. Like you guys should actually do something." These are like cries for help. It's like
He's a cries for help.
these are clowns that are like
Yeah.
performing in the subway for money and there's like doing flips and then a dog goes after them and then some dumb shit and you're like, you guys shouldn't be proud of this. This is embarrassing. You're a city. You're representing America,
Mhm.
and this is New York. So this is like considered the greatest city in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys don't. But then here's my old man thinking after a
Okay.
while, where I just kind of go like, I can't keep complaining about this. Like nothing. I just got to worry about my own shit. And you gotta go like, look, you guys want to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
I I either opt out or I opt in. That's my thing. I'm done like convincing people.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, man, because there's so many other factors that's outside of your control.
Yes.
The best thing you could do is like kind of just make sure your own circle is
Yes.
pretty good and and
Yes.
sound. I would say.
So this is the one thing I think with age and with maturity of something that I think I realized later than maybe I should have, where it's
Yeah.
just like you got to worry about what makes you happy and you got to worry about your life as a singular
Hmm.
thing and not worry about things you can't control. I think I was doing that for a while where I was just like, yeah, this sucks, that sucks, this
Yeah, I ain't
sucks.
gonna lie, man. Since knowing you, man, you definitely have gotten a lot calmer. It's actually,
Yeah. Yeah, you
interesting.
told me, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually cool to see. Cause
Really? It's
yeah,
that bad? It
I
was that
mean,
bad? Yeah, it was probably that bad.
yeah, yeah, you was, you was,
Yeah, I
you
was
was,
getting, yeah. Yeah, it was, yeah.
but I mean, that's it comes with age and also time,
Yes.
experiences, and things, right?
Yes, yes.
Um,
Travel.
travel,
Travel helps, yeah.
yeah, definitely travel helps. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, travel helps. Even when we went out to Barcelona and stuff like that,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
that was an interesting time. Uh, some things that are
No, it was. It was.
yeah, it was an interesting time. Yeah. It's always funny looking back at that.
Well, the
e-
pictures and stuff like when
pictures,
yeah.
even the arguments and discussions we had, because even like me at that point, I'm now changed, like, or
Oh,
whatever.
from then. That
Yeah.
was 2 years? 2 years.
Yeah. Was it 2 years?
2022, yeah.
Right, 2 years ago. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, even that now.
Yeah.
Because like traveling more, different mindset now and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah. Do
Um
you feel like since you started comedy, do you feel like I mean, you've already, I don't remember you being temperamental even in comedy, or do you feel like I guess your values have changed, right? I don't know.
yeah, definitely values have changed.
Like since you started comedy to now. I mean, it had to
Yeah.
have changed for you to want to move here.
Yeah, I'd say it changed. It changed when I first, well, no, I mean, obviously when I started, because we started around the same time,
Yes.
if not same time.
Yes, yes.
And then it changed when I came to Scotland, when I came to Edinburgh
This was before the pandemic.
before the pandemic.
Yes. I
Yeah.
think you were the first one out of our group to leave. I
Yeah.
think you were. I don't remember anybody else leaving,
I
not
don't,
even to visit.
yeah, yeah. I think I was like, yeah, I think that was the first one in our group because
Yes.
I
Yes.
went there, 'cause I didn't even perform. I just went out there because my
Your wedding.
roommate
The
was having a
wedding.
wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, was out there, had an Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and just seeing art like that, it was just kind of like, whoa. And
Yeah.
then seeing them getting supported in a
Right.
way they did, i.e., people paying and stuff. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God. Like, I didn't even know that was even a life
Yes.
that can be had.
Yeah.
And then that just started the wheels in my head of like, yo, I gotta probably like move out here.
Even then.
Even bro, I would bro, if it wasn't for the pandemic, London would have been a place I would have traveled to within the next like 3 to 4 years, like 2 to 3
Wow.
years. That was like a plan where I was like, "All
Really?
right, I gotta find my way out." Like I had like an actual, all right, like because the love you get when you perform at the time in London, like
Yeah.
people will be like, "Yo, I really like your stuff." Like, they'll come and actually talk to you.
Yeah.
Whereas in New York City, it wasn't like that.
No.
If anything, they probably reserved that or something, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
So yeah, it changed from that point. Like that changed, and then when we went to Barcelona doing comedy there, it
Yeah.
further changed more. Then when Alex and I came out here and did like the little, like a Europe tour we did, that was a
That
permanent.
was last summer?
Last spring, yeah,
Spring.
last
Okay.
spring. That was like permanent because that was just like, I mean, yeah, it was just like, oh my god, like what, like. And then when I came to Berlin, that was just, it felt like New York City in some way, but then also to like the comedy, and then also just again the love you get and people supporting you. I was just like, yeah, bro. So it started changing my values at deep levels.
Yeah.
Where I was like, yeah, bro, let me go ahead and make this move.
So when you went to all these places, were you kinda, like, shopping around to each country and going like, "Well, do I see myself here? Do I see my" or is that why
Mm,
you went to so many places at once? Because there
mm,
was one place, one
mm.
time, one trip where you went to maybe 4 or 5 countries or something?
Yeah, I think this is the one. Yeah, the one last spring.
So, were you did you have that in your mind when you were doing that? Or
Mm,
did you not
I
have that
think
intention?
I think it was it got put in the background, like the move to London or something at the time. So like last year. So when we was traveling, it was just more of just like, oh, this is dope. It was kind of like in the moment thing. But I think Berlin was the place where I stayed the longest. And then
Oh,
is where like, I was still working remotely. So
mm,
then I was doing that. But then also with say, Ludwig and Eunice
yes.
and hanging out and doing like multiple shows. So I was actually like here for like a couple weeks to where it was like a life started to be formed. Like, oh, okay, I
Oh,
know the U-bahn station to go to.
yeah,
Oh, here's a nice restaurant.
yeah.
Oh, here's a place to go to if I want to get groceries. So it was like a lot of like life things that were happening. And then eventually it was two comedians actually shout out to them. They convinced me. They was just like, hey, so when are you gonna move here? And
Oh,
I was like, move here. Again, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm like, well, we talking about moving here. Like, I
yeah,
mean, I don't even know how to do that. It's like, yeah, you can get an artist visa. I'm like, what's that? And it told me how with you being an artist, you can prove you can make money from it. You can get a visa.
mm.
So then that opened my brain like, whoa, you can.
It's like, here's the path.
Yeah, and then these are comedians telling me to come move. So I'm like, this type of support don't come like
Yeah,
this, especially
yeah,
when you just met me.
yeah.
And then shout out to Tara. She gave me like all the details on how to I'm talking about specific, like go open this website at this time,
Wow.
Central Eastern time. You go on the site, you click this button, and it be available. Did it? Was available. I'm like, bro,
Yeah,
yeah. Once I got back to New York City, I literally couldn't get it out of my mind, like moving.
yeah.
Like it was like it was like I made that decision. I think like got back in May. So there's like
Yeah.
a 3 to 4 months, and then just left.
Did you plan on being here longer than? Because in your trip out of the countries that you went to, you were here longer than any other country.
Yes,
Was that just a
between
coincidence?
Paris and, Berlin, yeah, I think Paris a little like just about the same time, but yeah.
It was just a coincidence. It wasn't, like, planned or anything?
Nah, it would
Just out of the prices of the
yeah, nah, it was literally Berlin. I never been to Berlin up until that time. So
yeah.
like we always when we was in Barcelona, even that one guy from Comedy Clubhouse,
Yeah.
Murtha, right?
Matthew Murtaugh, yeah.
Yeah, he was telling us about like Berlin. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, he's like, "Oh, Berlin,
Vaguely,
Berlin."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we're kind, I mean, Berlin in our minds, American minds, we think of Berlin, the
Who cares?
wall,
Yeah.
fucking war. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
we're like, the fuck. But then I think, 'cause I think then Alex was like, yo, we should probably do it. So I think at the time he hit us all up. And then I think some of us were like, thinking about it, but then the timeline and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So it was just between just us. And then I was like, yo, fuck it, let's do it. This seems like a dope thing. And then Berlin was the one where I was just like, oh shit. So it was I ain't even had no plans. Like, bro, Berlin was just a place of many places in my
Yeah,
brain to just perform at. And then once other comedians like, yo, you should probably move. I was like, oh shit.
yeah.
Yeah, because Berlin, I got the most love out here.
Ah,
And I was
okay.
like, yeah, yeah, that's a good,
Nice.
yeah,
So that's a big, step.
very big stuff.
So uh do you like being here? Do you compared to how you were in New York in terms of the scene? Do you like it more?
Yeah, I
Alright.
do. That's
That's
and
good. That's good to you probably ask yourself this, but I don't think I ever asked you, like, because it's been a year,
yeah.
in terms of, like, the scene and the way that people are treating you and stuff. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it is something that actually that question I was not let me not say struggling, but I didn't know how to really answer it because like there's still
Takes
nostalgic.
time.
Yeah, takes time. I just came back from New York City, so seeing where things are, like seeing it from outside looking in, and then
Yeah.
coming back in, and then being like, "Huh, interesting. Wow, I have my view of
Yeah,
this scene changed."
it changes every year, New York.
Mhm.
The scene, the comedy scene. Every year there's new people, and because I have a friend. We still have time, right? Oh,
Yeah,
okay, great.
we still got time. Okay, cool.
I want there's two things that reminded me of that. There was one guy, this halal guy that I know. I always go to him, and
Mhm.
I always tell him like there's like a review of his thing, and I was there, and I'm like, this is like when I go to him, it's like therapy in a way. People always say like my barber's my therapist. My barber's Russian. He's a fucking like we don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
He just he does the job. He is a therapist in a way where he just listens to me,
Yeah.
and that's nice too. But sometimes this halal guy, he throws these gems that I was like, I didn't even think about, and I'm like one to always be cynical of people, but he just goes like, I remember he said, he goes, "How are you?" And I go, "I'm good, same shit, same shit." He goes, "Yeah, same shit. Every day it's the same shit, but then when you look back, everything changes." And then I'm like, "Dude, I wasn't ready." That's an insane thing. That's so true, and yet it's so
Wow,
it's the
that's
most
a
one of the most profound things. And then he just, so what do you want? Do you want the lamb of rice? Like he didn't even notice what he just said. I'm like, that is the most poetic thing I've
it
ever
really
heard,
is.
and that to me is what happens when you're too close to something. Like when you just go like it's the same shit every day, same shit. But then everything is something changes a little bit where something's closed. One person moves, another person this and that and that. And then in a year you go like this everything is different. And so the what do I want to tell you? Oh, so I have a friend that he was here. He's here now. He's here. He's in New York. He's been there since last year October or last year June, like summer of of 23, and he was there over a year, and he's leaving in November. He's
Yeah.
going to Chicago, and he's a comic, and he's like, yeah, I figured I'd see this city, and he's like, yeah, it seems like. I don't like how this system is, and like you guys seem to, not me, but he's like the system of, like kissing ass and like hanging out and social media and all this other stuff. And he's like, yeah, it's just not for me. And I'm going to go to a place that appreciates me. And like, that's a change where I never saw someone, I guess you moving too, but I never saw someone for him particularly, like just go like, yeah, I'm not.
That fast.
Yeah, this is I've had my time. He did do well here. Like he had a show, packed it out all the time,
Nice.
made money. But he's like, I need to see progression, and he didn't see that. And he's like, I see the way a lot of you guys are waiting your turn, and I don't want to do that.
Mm.
And so I mean, I don't want to. Well, it doesn't really matter. I didn't even say his name. He's going to Chicago, and so that's a good scene there. They have a good scene there, and yeah, it's just interesting how people just make it's so there's a weird thing that if you're from New York, you just feel like you need to struggle and you need to, and it comes with the life. And that
Yeah.
I remember I tried this one thing on stage, right? I just had this thought like if you're from New York, like even if you're in a good mood, like you're just talking shit and it comes off as negative, right? But to us, we're just talking shit
Yeah.
because that's all you can do in New York is like there's so much wrong with it that you go like, ah, yeah, the city. I remember I worked one time, this one job, it was like such a shit job. And then
Mm.
this one guy comes up to me and he's like, yeah, the boss fucking sucks, man. He's like this, he's like that. I go, yeah, he's bad. And we start talking shit for like 5 minutes about how this job sucks. And he goes, "Anyway, hope you have a good day, man." And then he just kept walking. And like
Yeah.
that was his way of connecting with me, just talking shit about something.
Yeah.
That's 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 what New York is, where you can talk shit and then keep it moving.
Yeah, that's a big New York thing right there. Actually, something that, and I mean, it happens here a little bit, but in a different way. New York City is more like vocal.
Oh yeah,
There's like a tone to it that's very specific.
yeah.
That is for most people coming out from the outside coming in, they're kind of like, "Whoa, is a fight about to happen?"
So that happened at a show that I did here. It was one of the shows, and one guy was talking as soon as I got on stage, and I was like, "Dude, what the fuck?" And the whole audience got like, and then I had to roll it back instantly. I rolled because I was like, "Oh, you guys, I'm not in New York."
Yeah.
Anger is very common in New York
Oh,
because you have
very.
everything to be angry about. So when they see an angry guy, they go like, "This is of course he's angry. We're in New York."
Yeah.
Here, there's a lot less to be angry about. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know what there is stuff to be angry about, but if you're just on stage just yelling, people will be like, "Where is this coming from?" Because it seems
Yeah.
like this is coming from something else. But you don't have to explain yourself when you're there. People will just be like, "Yeah, this is just a fucking angry New Yorker."
Right.
So,
Yeah, there's more stuff to be angry about. And then also too, there's a more aversion to certain like conflicts and things. Like just and like
oh,
interpersonal.
okay,
So I'm assuming this is my rough
yeah,
assumption. And again, it's like for me saying certain jokes that like I realized triggered a decent amount of like German people. That
yeah.
joke I have about being punched in the face or something like
Oh,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like I'm talking about like I mean people tighten
yeah,
up. And
yeah,
I'm like, yo, what the
yeah,
it'd be people from America or other Eastern European country that would laugh.
yeah,
So I'd be like, yo, what is going on? And not knowing there's like a whole entire history
yeah,
behind it and
yeah,
this and then that. And you're like, yeah, well, okay, shit.
yeah. There's no like. One thing I notice is if you say something egregious on stage or something like that, people will like in New York, people or whatever, they'll have like this understanding that you're either being a dick or you're just doing some kind of like edge lord shit or
Hmm.
something like that. Sometimes when I do it here, it's like more of like, well, why is he saying this? This is like a mean thing to say.
Right.
It's not wrong. People will just be like, why? I don't get it.
And it's like
Right.
annoying because like, look, this is a joke. This is that.
Yeah. So cultural differences, you know.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I guess that's a reflection of the city where you kind of just go like, you don't them as people, they will go like, yeah, these kind of negative feelings that you have, like this is a result of this and that stuff. And then sometimes I guess with America, it kind of goes like, yeah, you're just like another. It's like the land of extremes, like America and New York and stuff like that. You have to be like either all the way this way or that way. It's like if you're just like a human being, I guess it's boring. I don't know,
Yeah, so it's hard to be just a regular person in New York City. You basically have to have paranoia. You got to have all these things to
just to fit in.
just to survive. I mean, even I talk about in other podcasts, and even with Tamara, that
Yeah,
like living in New York City for a long time and then moving out here, like
yeah,
the paranoia to deal with, like to even manage in your own brain is like, sometimes you just walking around, you just realize like, oh no, I'm like the most paranoid person here, like,
yeah.
like out externally, like. So you live in a place where you're kind of like, wow, there's nothing, there's no loud noises,
It's
there's
great.
no this, there's no
Yeah,
that. You just like, wow, it takes some time to get adjusted.
yeah,
Even sometimes if I'm I think even it's funny because you and I were walking and then even we're doing certain things, you hear like a little brushing, we looking back, like kind of
yeah.
like,
I kept looking back at this one guy that was walking behind us, but he was just walking behind us. He wasn't really doing anything.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
like it take you a minute, like, oh, he just happened to be walking in the same direction
yeah,
at a slower pace, and we just came in front of him.
yep,
Instead of being like, yo, who this? Yo, you clocking my moves? Like, yo, what
yeah,
you doing? Like, you about
yeah,
to do something? Yo, I heard some wrestling. I heard some
yeah,
steps extra. What's
yeah,
going? You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, and yeah. But this goes back to the thing of like, where does that feeling of paranoia come from? It comes from like us like seeing cops that don't do shit in New York, and then
Yeah.
they don't. Not only do they not do shit, they do the wrong shit where they like
Right.
they hit regular people, they shoot regular people that do nothing, or maybe they do something, but there's nothing that can warrant shooting you. You
Right.
know what I mean? So it's seeing things like that. that makes you kind of go like, "Ah, man, I really do need to like just fend for myself."
Yeah, that and also too, man. You know, it's just getting punched in the face early in life.
Oh yeah,
Oh my God. I mean that
yeah,
ooh, to talk about letting you know what's safe and what's not and when you go
yeah,
outside, like what street to go on.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's also like always play around with that. Like
yeah,
yeah, getting punched in the face, like having an argument or something like that. Having an argument, and the person just punch you dead in your chest and you lose all your air. You're like, oh, I lose the argument because I have no more air to
yeah,
breathe. Like he
yeah,
punched it all out. It's like,
yeah.
I think this is right. Bow. Well,
No, you're wrong.
didn't matter. You're gasping for air now because he punched you dead in your chest.
That's the reality.
Yeah, and
Reality is, yeah,
that reality plays out, and then and over time you start getting paranoid. You start knowing how to, that's why you grow up in a rough neighborhood. You know how to size people up. You have to, because like,
yeah,
something happened. You be like, yo, who are you? Who you with? Do you got something on you?
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, yo, this type of neighborhood that X, Y, and Z. Are you part of some set? Like,
yeah,
which
yeah.
makes you paranoid very fast.
But do you have to bring that here? Does that ever something that
Um,
are those feelings ever required here?
I think it's now at this point just very like, it's just like subconscious. It's very like, how would you say? It's very like subconscious and it's very internal at this point. It's 'cause I used to do this acting class. It's called not Feldenkrais. It's Alexander technique. And
Okay.
like what it is that certain emotions or subconscious thoughts we hold in our body as tension in certain
Ah,
places.
yeah.
So like if you're on the subway, like if you at the subway in New York City, you're gonna stand a different way than you would in your house. Just
Yeah.
because you're aware of like you get pushed on the track, so you might be more kind of like tense or whatever, or like more your breathing might be restricted. So I think just living life in like certain neighborhoods and then including New York City, that there's just some things that subconsciously, like if I like for example, if I'm sleeping, I hear like a window like I'm like, yo, yo, somebody about to
Yeah.
come inside. Like I'm already
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like I already got my hand balled, like I'm ready, like, yo, ready to
Yeah.
fuck somebody up.
Yeah.
But I'm just realizing I don't know if I can get rid of that truly.
Yeah.
Or if it's even to be honest, man. I mean, then a little part of me is like, all right, so like if my day to day is going good, I'm aware of it. Yeah, I'm not gonna go to the U-bahn station and stand near the edge like
Yeah.
how people do, because
You never know.
you fall down and you get hit. That's
Yeah.
done. I'd rather be tense and be like, a tense
Yeah.
ball than a fucking loose person that trips on
Yeah. Yeah.
on the subway steps.
Yeah. I mean, you can't really, I guess if you were born with it, you can't really get rid of it. You just have to kind of like learn to live with whatever cards you were dealt with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and then it makes life more interesting, especially when you're aware of it. 'Cause you might see something, and then you look at everyone else, and they're like, "Oh, I guess I'm the only one. Interesting. Huh? Okay, this person on the train has a knife, and everyone's kind of still talking, and I'm the only one just like looking at the."
Are you talking about there or here?
No, here, that was a situation that happened one time where
What?
like basically it's a homeless dude that was asking people for change on the U-bahn on the underground train station,
Yeah.
and asking for change and stuff. Homeless dude, and then this one girl, these like two girls that had like a cake in their hand and it was like covered, and he asked her for change. He's like, "Oh, we don't got any change, but we can give you some cake if you want."
Oh,
And then
wow.
he's like, "Yeah, sure." And he's like, she's like, "Oh, I don't got any knife." He's like, "Oh, I got a knife." And he pulled out a knife, right? And he pulled out in a way that not the nice Boy Scout, I'm holding it by the edge, I'm
Just
holding
like
the
that.
handle. It was like in the, oh, I can stab you if you put your hand out. So he whipped it out kind of quick. So in my head, I'm just like, whoa. So I'm looking at the knife like, whoa, what the fuck going on? So, but then I'm looking around. Everyone just having regular conversation. Talk. No one eyebrow is raised. Everyone just talking regular level. It was me and this other Arabic dude that was like crossing each other. We were like the one looking like,
Yeah. What
yo,
the
it's go
fuck?
time. Like, what's going on? So then he whips it out. So then the girl takes the knife from the guy again by the edge first. So I'm like, in my head, I'm like, yo, what are you doing? So she
Yeah.
takes the knife, she cuts the piece of cake, and then basically hand feeds this guy the cake, and with the other girl holding the napkin and catch the crumbs. So in my head, I'm just looking. I'm like, yo, what the? I'm like, yo, what is going on? We're on a train, and you hand feeding this dude
What
who
the
had a
hell?
knife in his hand.
Yeah.
So he's doing it, he's eating it, it's like that, and like he eventually kind of grabs the cake and eats it all, it's like that. So
And
I'm looking around
yeah.
and no one's alarmed. It was again me and this other dude, and remember we looked at each other and we just started laughing because we realized like we're the only ones in
Yeah.
this car
Yeah.
that has this awareness of danger. So after they're done, so I think so then they hand the knife back to the guy again in the most incorrect way. The
The
edge
edge,
first
yeah.
to them. He can literally just take it like, oh, I like the cake and
And
you,
then
and just like
yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
But then took the knife back. And he's like, "Oh yeah, thank you very much." Like, "Oh yeah, thank you." So they're chatting a little bit, smiles and everything. A smile with a guy who has a knife in his hand. I'm
Oh
like, "Yo,
my
what?
god.
What is going?" Like in my
Yeah.
head, I'm like, "Yo, what the fuck is going on?"
Yeah.
And then so then the train gets to a stop, and he's like, "All right, thank you." So he walks out the train car again with the knife in his hand, as if he can stab somebody. And like again, even the people that are coming in, they're not even alarmed. They're just kind of, "Oh yeah, no, you can go ahead." And he's like walking out the train station with a knife in his hand at hip level, like kind of like, you know. And I'm just looking like, and again, no one in the car alarmed. No one's like, "Wow, that's crazy." I'm just beside myself. Me and this other guy, just like,
What the fuck?
what just happened?
Yeah.
Like, so I still to this day, I'm just like, yo, what?
Wow.
No,
Is he a white guy?
it was a white, German dude, two German girls or something like
Is he
that, you know.
smelly or anything like that? Is he
I mean,
regular
kinda
homeless?
nah, he looked like kinda like, he
Okay.
looked like somebody that could do,
Yeah.
and again, not to stereotype, but I
Yeah,
mean, he
yeah.
just had like, he had like the look of someone who's like very down and out a little bit, kinda like, "Oh, can I get some change?" And then hunched
Yeah.
over and
He's like
stuff.
irate in a way.
Not even irate, just kinda like, "Hey, can I get some
Oh,
change? Can I
okay.
just," he's rough life and stuff, but just
Yeah.
for him to whip out the knife like that, and then like for them to take it with like no type of paranoia, that was just
That's
wild.
wow.
I was like, "Yo, what the?" So
Were the girls young?
they're young. They look dainty. They're like, "Oh yeah." Blah, blah, blah." I'm
Wow.
like, you are the demographic to get stabbed by people that whip up a knife in a fucking
Oh my
subway.
god.
That's, bro. That was still to this day. I'm like, what like, yeah.
That's insane.
So that,
I don't even know if in New York they'll say anything because everybody will just fend for
nah,
themselves.
people start moving. Like
Yeah, yeah, they'll walk away.
you catch
They'll get
somebody's
out of the
eyes.
train. They'll get out
Yeah,
of what do you call it? The subway
yeah.
car, or they'll go to another one.
Yeah, but you catch somebody's eye,
Yeah,
go there, and
yeah,
and then when you grow up in a rough neighborhood, you know how to catch somebody else's eye to
yeah,
go somewhere. So you be like, oh, why they looking over
yeah,
there? And then you see something, then you'll know how
yeah.
they moving, and you be like, nah, that's somebody, they got something on. I don't know.
And then you
Then you start
move.
looking at other people, then they start looking, then you be
Yeah.
like, nah, all right, this is this, you feel it. And then
Damn, man.
trained everyone talking about where they going to eat for dinner and stuff. I mean, in German, I guess. So I don't know, but
Yeah.
like it was just regular conversations. While this dude had a knife, I'm talking about he wasn't as he had it out. Like you can see the shining glintingness on the knife. I'm like, bro.
Did you ever say this story on stage?
You know what? Every time I do, I need to definitely formulate it in a way to say it on stage. Yeah, definitely need to. I don't know how to turn it into a punchline because I'm still just shocked every time I talk
Is
about
this
it.
recent?
This is like a couple months ago, 6
Well,
months ago. Yeah,
I
6 months
mean,
ago, 4 months.
you just compare. I mean, like New York.
Yeah,
That would be a story.
yeah. I definitely need it because I have said it a few times. Actually, now talking about it, I need to
Yeah,
definitely probably listen back to this and do
yeah,
it.
yeah,
But then it's every time I talk about it, like it puts me back in that mode, and then I'm just like literally like, yo, what the? And then
yeah.
not 9 times, but like 6 times out of 10, everyone's like, kind of like, ha ha ha. All right, what's next? I'm like, no,
That's a crazy thing.
yeah, I'm like, yo, but you understand, like, so even that, they'd be like, nah, yeah, but did he have like the nice little like thing to conceal it when he was done? I'm like, that it doesn't. Yeah, he could have stabbed somebody, then concealed it.
Yeah,
Didn't matter.
but
What do we
this
talk about?
but this goes back into the thing that I was saying. So like, if she did get stabbed, she'd go to the hospital and she wouldn't have to pay.
That's why it's the free healthcare
Yeah,
that
they'd be like, all right, whatever.
it's the free healthcare
Yeah.
that got people feeling comfortable.
You know how fucked up it is in the States? Now people don't even call the ambulance. They call
Uber.
Ubers. That's fucking crazy. Because they don't want to call it's like $1,000 for the
Yeah.
ambulance. And so that's why that lady was like, he just fucking stabs me, whatever. Just take the cake. It doesn't matter. Just leave me alone. If he stabs all of us, we'll all just go to the hospital together.
We'll all
just
go
walk
together.
around.
This U-bahn actually takes us directly to the
Yeah.
hospital. It's a
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah. That's why. That's why it probably shocks you because you're looking at it like, oh, what would happen if this was in America? Then yeah, this would be a story because people would just go, oh, take the fucking. They would walk to the fucking hospital. with fucking blood trickling down on the street or something like
Yeah,
that. It's that's why probably everybody's so fucking calm.
I guess so, man. Yeah,
And then yeah,
it's wild.
eh, yeah, that's an insane thing to happen. And yeah, it's good that you're here. That everybody
Good that I'm here.
Yeah, if that happened in New York, nah, man, that would have been a story.
Oh yeah, big story.
And also, but then it would have been in that homeless guy's mind to also go like, I have nothing. And I not to say that this guy didn't have nothing, but to go like, yeah, nobody cares. Like, not only to blame the homeless guy, but nobody in New York would have given a homeless man a cake.
At all.
Right. Because they
Yeah.
wouldn't even think to go like that. Everybody is so much like it's paranoia. Everybody's a threat. Everybody's a threat. And
Mhm.
nobody will kind of like help each other or anything like that, which I guess maybe is capitalist or whatever, but it's the result of that, where it's like selfishness and all this other stuff. People don't even like seeing it this way. Like, even if I tell people this shit, they're like, ah, what are you complaining about? I'm like, you don't understand. Like, this is an inhumane way to treat each other.
Yeah.
Like, that's a very human thing.
Very.
It's very human to go like, "Oh, man, this person's down and I was asking for money, but I got something else," you
Mhm.
know? So both of those characters in your story, it's like that both of those things wouldn't happen. Not only would the homeless guy not fucking would stab the lady,
Right.
but that those 2 girls are d trusting enough of this person to go like, "Well, this person will, you know, not hurt me if I give them food." Like, imagine giving food. Like, even now, sometimes when you give a homeless person food in New York, like, they don't want the food
Yeah, they're like, "No."
because sometimes they either think that they're like you put something in the food, or they just go like, I just need money for drugs because, I'm a drug user, whatever.
Yeah, or sometimes they try to do that thing where it's like, "Hey, look, my diabetes,
Some shit.
I'm
Yeah.
like, which, yeah, you always conflicted. You're like, all right, bro. I mean,
I
yeah,
heard, yeah, saw you 3 weeks ago. It's like your diabetes is still there.
yeah, right. It's kind of like, yeah, I know diabetes, yeah, and this food I am giving you will raise your blood sugar, but raise your blood sugar or not starve. Like,
Yeah.
what do you want?
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you what the priorities here. And
Yeah.
nor am I a doctor, so I don't know what to tell you.
Imagine if a doctor would be there, he'd just be like, "Yeah, no, you don't have diabetes. I can like diagnose you from your face or something." Yeah,
Just a random dude on the subway, just a doctor, just like looking at him. It's like, let me check your heartbeat real quick just to make sure.
yeah.
Nah, you
It's
don't
like,
got
no,
diabetes.
get the fuck out of here.
He's like, nah, you're gonna take this money and then call it a day.
Yeah, yeah,
So okay, so now with you traveling out in New York City, this is
yeah,
your first time here in Berlin.
yeah.
I mean, you've been to Barcelona, other places, London. Um, I'm always curious about like what is your mindset now or your mind state in terms of like you know travel life. I don't know if that's too general, but
About travel?
yeah,
What
because you
about travel?
well, because I think we talked about it a little bit in terms of like your thoughts of New York City and where you're at and
Yeah,
eventually leaving.
yeah,
And, I feel like when people travel to different countries or different places, that it kind of sets the seed of like where, them possibly living in one of these places or
yeah.
so. And I don't know if that has happened or is that even something in your mind in terms of eventually living
Mm,
outside of
Yeah,
New York City?
I always think about it. I always think about it. When people tell me about New York, I think this is a sign of leaving. Is like I don't really have anything good to say about New York, which is not a good sign.
Mm.
But I don't know if that's also because I've been there for too long. And anywhere you go for too long, you see the negatives more than the positives because everything's too close. Um, and also going back to what we were talking about before, it's like same shit every day, but everything changes. So it's not the city that I knew anymore. Um, I think everybody in New York that's like a New Yorker is just living on past memories. Honestly, truly,
Mm.
I honestly do believe that. And this way, you could clip this shit up and tell and like bring on the. I really do believe that. I think that the city is just a nostalgia dream for New Yorkers. I think that the New Yorkers that are still there are struggling, and I think that anybody that actually enjoys New York is not from there. I truly believe that. I think anybody that's having a good time in New York is a child of nepotism or a child of money or an old person that, made their way. And it's not a 24-hour city anymore. It really isn't.
Right.
And I'm not gonna say where I live, but there's in the whole city, there's diners. Like, I mean, I know this is such a simple thing, but diners used to be 24 hours, and it used to be such a New York staple where you could just write and chill and talk shit and stuff like that. Diners close at 11 or 12.
That is wild.
They do. They close
Yeah.
at 11 or 12, and it's not because they don't want to open. It's because the city is either or all unsafe, um, or they don't have the money to open it up for that long.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nobody with disposable income. So that
Mm.
really affects people in the arts. That's what we live on. People need to eat and then they go to shows. If you can't eat, you're not going to go to a show, you know? Yeah, it's uh I do think about leaving. I still don't know where. Um yeah, I still don't know where cuz you said that the winters here are terrible.
The winters in Berlin is not a joke.
Yeah.
That one has been told to me, and I took that for granted. And boy, was
I
I
mean, you had to live through it to see it for yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, had to. Yeah, I don't think anyone can prepare.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
the most optimistic, being like, "No, it's
It'll
okay.
be
I'll wear a
fine.
nice jacket and blah blah
Yeah, yeah,
blah."
yeah.
And basically almost damn near passed out multiple
Yeah,
times.
with the vitamin D and stuff.
Vitamin D, not going outside, not moving my body, not catching the sun when
Yeah.
it's out. So yeah, when you get used to that, then you're good. Or you just travel to a warmer country. That's what people do here.
But here's the other thing about sorry to go back to New York.
Yeah,
But
please.
here's the other thing about New York is that whenever you feel like I think maybe this is a universal feeling that when you do leave and tell me if you feel this way is that when you do leave New York, you feel like there's still things to before you leave, there's still things to accomplish in New York where you're like maybe I should stay here because there are opportunities and things and all that stuff. So that's one apprehension I have to leaving where
Mhm.
I kind of go like, well, is there still something to like hold on to in that sense like with comedy and entertainment because there is something there but social media is like king so it doesn't really matter if you're there you'll be asked to be there eventually
Yeah.
so yeah I don't know it's and also here's a little common probably a little complaint it's also like the future of comedy in New York, I don't think is very good. Just because, and I know this sounds like a cynical thing, but
Mm.
you can barely find places to go up for free.
Mm.
It's increasing. Like there's a lot of places that have increased their prices, and I think in Brooklyn there are some spots, but you only get up for like 2-3 minutes. So that means that comedy for New Yorkers there'll be a cost barrier. So that means that people that are broke that are funny can't afford to do comedy. That
Wow.
says a lot about the future of comedy where it's like the only people that can do it are rich kids. That's like I used to play soccer and it's a pay to play system. So which is not like any other country. Like if you're good here in Germany and Spain, they pay for you to go to school cuz they know if they invest in you when you're young, they get the benefits because they'll be like you're an academy player, you'll become you'll get us championships which will give us money and you'll be devoted to our team. It's like a community.
Mm.
Here in the states, you need to pay to go to a team. You need to pay
Mm.
for your jersey. You need to pay for your registration. I remember it was one time I played a game for a team, and at the end of the game, the referee was like, "All right, $2." And we're like, "What?" I was 15 years old, 14, 15. I go, "What the fuck?"
What?
And then I remember thinking I didn't speak Spanish because the guy started speaking Spanish, and I asked my teammate, I'm like, "What is he saying?" He's like, "Oh, everybody needs to give him $2." And I go, "Why?" And he goes, "Because he's the referee. We need to pay him." I go, "Why? You should have told me before the game. He already did the job. This is the guy was stupid. He asked for it after." So I just walked away. I just left to the train station. I'm like, "What are you gonna do?"
Yeah, you gonna chase after me? Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna get over $2. But how fucking broke are you? You
All
know?
right.
So it's like shit like that where I'm like, I don't
Mm.
understand where what this where this is going. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Which isn't to say like, oh, well, yeah, that's a whole other thing. But
Yeah, no, I mean that's a good point in terms of like the barrier to entry increasing, just like from a price perspective, especially with stand up comedy, because stand up comedy is the most like
you need to
uh
go up a lot
you
to
need to
do
go up.
well as much as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
And then for that to be the case, we have to, yeah. And also, I hear too, there's a lot more comedians in New York City than it ever has, not ever
Oh
has
my
been,
god, yeah.
but like, yeah, 'cause I heard from somebody else who came from New York and they're doing like touring here in Europe.
Yeah.
They told me like they talked to somebody at one of the clubs and they're saying like, I never saw this before, where there's this many comedians
Yeah.
all in like New York City at this
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So like, I wonder with just what is it called, supply and demand, just like there's
There's
so
no
much,
demand.
yeah, no demand, but so many supply of comedians that is like to the point that, because even like when we started, so before pandemic,
It
like
wasn't like that.
it wasn't, yeah, it was like we knew the core amount of people that were like performing.
And
Now,
the groups that they were in, Brooklyn, Queens City, yeah.
yeah, it was like the same usual suspects usually, and then
Yeah.
now, I mean, I've been away, but it just seems like just a lot.
And it's like what I was saying about New York, it's a nostalgia dream. It's like people going to New York because of what they saw about like a lot of the new comics that I talk to. I go like, "Why'd you move to New York?" And they go like, "Oh, Patrice, tough crowd, and Bill Burr." And I'm like, "Dude, that was 20 years ago. 20 years ago.
Mm.
Almost all those
Mhm.
guys are fucking, well, not almost, but Keith Robinson's stroke, 2 strokes, Patrice is dead, Bill Burr's in LA, Colin Quinn's the only one there, and it's like
Yeah.
Bobby Kelly's there and stuff like that, but these guys are, to us, these are like the revered people, but to everyone else, these are the old heads that nobody gives a fuck about anymore. It's like,
That's so interesting that
you
even
know?
our, yeah, because I wonder who are the, well, I mean, they're growing, I guess.
What?
But in terms of like, like Patrice O'Neal, Bill Burr and stuff, those for us were like the close,
Yeah.
but then people are new now. It's 20 years removed. But
Because
then
it's
what's like the
YouTube
10
and
year,
shit like that.
yeah, I wonder what's the 10-year removal. Because for us it's like about a 10 to 15, like 15-year about removal from
Yeah.
that. And I wonder what's their equivalent to the 10 to 15, because it seems like the people referencing like 20 to 30, even 40-year.
So, but that's some. There's some
Yeah.
people that don't even care about them. Where they, to them, I think they're like who the '90s guys are to us, where we don't care about them. So I think even
Mm,
for the newer comics, they're kind of just going like. Sometimes the motivations for some comedians I don't understand. Some of them I remember. One of them told me like, "Oh, I want to send a message, like a political message," and I'm like,
ah,
"Then be
boy,
a
yeah.
fucking politician. What the fuck? You're gonna
Yeah,
do
that's
political shit
wow.
as a comedian?
That
Does that
is,
even make sense?
I mean, yeah, unless you're no, I mean, because even Carlin, he didn't start off that way. And, he definitely
No.
started funny.
Yes.
And then,
Political shit as a comedian. I don't even know what that is. Like, oh, I'm an architect. I'm gonna cook. That's like, what the fuck? What are you doing? You're in the wrong profession. It doesn't even make sense.
yeah, a message to say is not funny inherently. Like, even when you say that, it's not funny. I have a
No.
message to say, oh, where's the punchline?
No.
I have a message to say. Great. So okay, I hear the premise.
Yeah.
What's the punchline to the message?
Yeah, it's I don't know what people's motivations are, but I guess it doesn't even matter. It's like um I'm not cynical about comedy because I know that in the end, every time there's a dip, it always goes back up.
Hmm.
Because even when it in the '90s when it was dead, it went back up.
Yeah, a lot of comedians in the 80s.
Well, the '80s, yeah, that was the
Yeah.
boom, and then it went out. And I think now it's kind of going. It's like they say that there's a social media bubble, but I don't think it's gonna die like it did in the '90s. I don't
Yeah.
think so because
Hmm.
social media is not um it's not going away.
Yeah, it's infinite. I
I
mean,
don't think it's going away.
yeah, I think the only thing that bubble will burst, and probably is bursting now to some degree, but like it's not bursting in like a pop. It's kind of
Yeah.
like a just popping in a weird way, like a in like an inward pop or some shit.
Yeah.
Is that the algorithms that are now dictating what gets shared or not?
Yeah.
And not only that, but then what people care about and what their knowledge are more about these signals that social media visualize, so for example, at one point it was all about followers. So like,
Yeah.
someone's interpretation of where you stand in a social media aspect was your followers. But then over time, as people got more savvy and or got more into it and
Yeah.
inflated the bubble, so to speak, is that it's understanding that following does not mean this.
Yeah, it's
So
like a
then
backlash. Yeah.
right. So then, okay, we see your followers, but then what's your engagement?
Yeah.
So then, and then they'd be like, oh, what's your engagement? But yeah, I see how many likes you got, but how many comments you
Yeah,
got?
yeah.
Oh, how many comments you got, but how many comments and shares?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like,
Bullshit.
yeah, it's these things that are now is being aware by normal people, and then obviously the algorithms are dictating what because now the name of the game is like keeping people on as long as possible.
Mm.
So that's like the biggest thing,
Yeah.
and that changes with what is being valued in the algorithms, but then for people minds it doesn't happen as quick. So it's like this weird so the bubble is like weird because it's like it's inflating only to the level of what people dictate is valuable
Yeah.
from what these metrics are from these like companies or so,
Yeah.
which it's always yeah, it's pretty weird.
But it'll never go, that stuff won't go away, I don't think, because they're it's Meta. And Meta is not just Instagram, it's Facebook, it's WhatsApp. So it's such a big integral part of, I think, media, that even the government, I think, like, it puts Zuckerberg in, and they like put him in Congress to answer for the things that he's letting. I don't think it's going away. I think he set himself up in a way where we're gonna need him for a while. And
Yeah.
I think Vine was the only one that really died. And Vine died because I think the top 10 creators asked for a bump for their salary, and the creators and the owner said no, and then the top creators left, and then it just died.
Yeah.
I think he set himself up in a way to never do that, like Mark, to never let that happen,
Oh yeah, yeah, no.
so that he's never dependent on a creator or anything like that. So now you got to pay Boost and all this other shit.
Yeah, pay boost. What's even now with them, I think
Ads,
ads. I
yeah.
think even them now favoring new creators.
Yeah, yeah,
So like,
because to make 'em, yeah. I
yeah,
mean, it's like, yeah, it was like, uh, the way they the way they always market it is always to go like, "Yeah, we're gonna, like, push, more original content," which is just your way of saying, "Oh, so you gotta pay to boost your shit. So you gotta make your
yeah,
content better than the paid shit." So you're like,
right, yeah, and even that too, because I mean, again, now it feeds back into that because yeah, it feeds back into that whole views thing as well. Like, well, okay,
yeah,
like how does one interpret views as worth or something?
yeah,
So I think that bubble is not going to burst based on people's perception of what's valuable, and
yeah,
then like that views thing. Because again, like even from my journey, like realizing that the people viewing it it matters a lot more, and that took me like it just took me time, like actually interacting and having certain things happen than just going for the. I mean, obviously, the bigger the reach, the better.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But like actually, because there's some videos where people get like 50, 30,000,
Mhm.
but then no one comments, and
No,
of course, that's a weird.
yeah,
So then when you confront that enough times, you're kind of like,
nobody
I
cares.
yeah, you like, a lot of people viewed it, but didn't really get not really cared because
No,
they didn't really like or comment. So is this really worth it? So then even that's but I think a lot of people don't get to that point until you confront it probably by your own content and being like, wow, a lot of people saw this and they really didn't care.
yeah, yeah,
You're like, huh. All right, this is not a good feeling. I'm
yeah,
seeing a lot of views, but I'm not getting a lot of love literally by likes.
yeah,
So so I think the bubble of comedy is gonna be one that's uh it is gonna pop, but it's not gonna pop the same way. Cause I mean now, you got like these people are getting on for reasons other than comedy
yeah,
sometimes. Um, you got people that just, basically just bombing in ways that are just, too great for people to really conceptualize, being like, whoa, I thought you was this. And then
yeah,
it's like, woo,
yeah,
like what the
yeah.
fuck?
I think now it's gonna, not now, but I think soon it'll be, a correction to the point of like I even see it on Reddit. So I go on Reddit on the stand-up comedy things. I see people post their jokes, like even seller joke comics post their jokes, and there's people in the comments going like, "This shit sucks, bro."
I seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're like, I don't know, this premise is stupid and all this other stuff. So it's as if the audience is kind of like going like, "Yeah, you can't trick us the way you used to. Like, you actually have to be funny." Um, but Reddit can be very
Yeah,
fickle.
Reddit.
Reddit is like
Yeah.
these dudes at home just like watching shit like
Ready to
at home.
attack you.
They feel like they have some kind of ownership over what you're saying, where you're like, you could just go to the next thing. Like, how are you insulted by me trying to fulfill a dream? I don't understand. But I think more people are gonna do that. I think soon people will eventually go like, I don't want to spend $30 on a two drink minimum on a bad show. And I think once people see these like TikTok stars and Instagram stars, they're kind of like, this was a waste of time. And then eventually they're gonna either never come to a comedy show again, or they'll go like, well, who's actually funny?
Yeah.
And then it'll be like kind of corrected in that way, where people will try to find the funny people. I hope. I think so. I
I think
think
it's
so.
definitely happening because, yeah, I mean, even some of the things that are coming out now, you can just, you don't hear people talk about specials like that anymore,
No,
or any type of bodies of work, or
no.
even have like favorite jokes or things like you don't, you know what I mean? So like, and then I think this live events is starting to make a comeback now, obviously with, with COVID that
Yeah,
happened. And then now, and then, the still reality of seeing something good,
yeah.
and then, inflation. So there's prices that gone up. So now it's like,
You actually have to spend it on a proper act.
yeah, and you're
Um,
not giving no benefit of the doubt. So it's kind of like, yo, who is this person that I'm
yeah,
paying this amount of money that I don't have really?
yeah.
Like before, like who is this person?
But it's kind of weird that like I don't know, sometimes and people get annoyed at me for doing this. Like sometimes people don't like and I don't do this anymore. I think I used to. This is going back to like me being more, I guess, like not complaining as much. I
Hmm.
used to talk shit about comics that would have specials that aren't funny,
Hmm.
that are like social media people.
Right.
And then people are telling me like, "No, don't do this. You shouldn't do this. Like these people, you could be working with them, or they could have influence or something like that." And I go, "But don't you think that's the problem? That
Hmm.
they have influence? It's like they have no right to even have a say in what industry this is. But I have to be the one that's scared of them. That doesn't even make sense to me." And I see other people kind of like go to their specials and go to their parties and stuff like that, and they take pictures with them, and I'm like, I know that you don't think they're funny, and you still go to them.
Hmm.
And then they always do capitalism. Then they always do that thing where they go like, "Yeah, but it's not about that. It's about I'm trying to make a living, money, back to the money." And I'm trying it's like there's no amount, there's like so much that you give up, like your morals and your ethics and all your values in exchange for money. And it seems like it's been such a common thing to do in America, and especially with comedy, especially over spots. Like I remember there would be people like I ran a show for a little bit, and there would be certain people that would ask me to do the show, and I'm like, dude, I didn't say this. I'd be like, you're a terrible person, and I don't want to be next to you. You're I know who you are. And just because you're funny, I don't give a fuck. Like I know the things I'm not gonna name names here, but I know I've heard of the things you did. And some of these people are so fucking fucked up that they say this shit on stage in joke form, like the terrible things they do. And
Uh,
and I gotta be accepting of this because I'm like, oh, but the joke worked. I'm like, you just said some crazy shit, and I'm supposed to pretend like that's okay just because you're funny, you know? So
right.
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
like complaining about stuff. It doesn't change and stuff
Right.
like that. So you just got to like keep your own uh, morals and values. But a lot of people just sell themselves out in exchange for other things, and I think they're just the victim of like the system that comedy has become in New
Yeah.
York. I can't say for anyone.
Yeah, I mean entertainment in general.
Yeah,
I
like
mean, like, like
Diddy and all that stuff.
I
Yeah.
mean, there's so many, because again, is that being picked stuff.
Yes.
It's the actual money aspect, because sometimes this thing actually nets money, like for real, right? But then at what cost? Is that back
Yes.
to that thing of like,
Yeah.
how are you like? Is it worth the money to like forego some of these things that you hold morally or so like that, right?
Yeah.
Which some people may make that trade off, right?
Yeah.
And but then there's some obviously repercussions with that and stuff. And I think also with entertainment, man, is that there's not that many shots out there. Well, let me say perceived shots in
Yeah.
terms of what you think is a shot, right? So like somebody might be like, yo, I'll be able to get into this door or into this place or whatever. And that being the only place in their mind of what's successful, instead of it being like a broad range of other things or other options. So then like, you got those three things all together. It makes it into like um a weird dynamic of sorts in an environment that people are trying to be picked. There's certain power dynamics, there's certain things of just reality. Sometimes you'd be like, hey, if you do want this, you do need to shake this hand. It's just, but
Yeah.
ask yourself, is it worth that? And that can be difficult in a place where you're in New York City where you're getting broke by the second.
Yeah.
And eventually you're kind of like, yo, I need to do something.
And then it's because you don't have health care, because nobody has health care.
Yeah, you don't got no health care.
Yes. They all say yes.
Yeah, he's like, I need to fix my knee or else I can't do stand up anymore. I need to, invest in some baby oil.
Yeah. That's what if people had healthcare, Diddy and all these people, they wouldn't be as prolific as they
Man,
were.
I wish it was just the healthcare. Some people just be thinking about the money. People be thinking about money first before like flossing their teeth. So like, that's it'd be like, man, I need to get this money. Yeah, but what about your diabetes? Man, let me get this money first. I'll get the money, then I'll worry about the diabetes.
Yeah.
Let me.
Yeah, it's I don't know. People
Yeah.
don't worry. I mean, maybe they do worry about the right things. Maybe I don't worry about money enough. I mean, I am broke, but I want to have more money, but at the same time, I don't want to like lose myself over it. So,
All right.
and when you're old, I mean, all this shit eventually it's like you people kind of live with regrets and stuff like that. Once you're old, none of this will matter. It's like sometimes you want to be true to yourself and you want to be doing that kind of thing, and it's very hard to do that um the whole way, like your entire life. It's very hard to do because of shit like that, where like you get an opportunity from, I guess, Diddy or Weinstein or one of them, and you're like, well, if I let him do whatever he wants, I can live a life. But I get it. They don't want to live like a broke life or a terrible life, but yeah, I don't know what the other side is. I've never been offered Weinstein or Diddy's dick. I don't know what it feels like. Maybe it does. Maybe it does feel good to kind of just go like, all I had to do was that, and now I have $100 million. Maybe that.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean that's a good. I mean, funny, but then also to a good question in terms of like what is it worth? Yeah, it's like all those things are just so fucking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of course, as you start, you're more in the scene and stuff.
Yeah.
And you start watching certain things. You kind of, again, you start like, you be like, hey, look, if that's the decision you want to make, that. But then also, it does have a downstream effects eventually on
Yeah.
how to then get in certain spaces, because you probably, this it's not no. Sometimes you want to get in those spaces, but then what it takes has been defined by people have already like doing whatever they did to get there. So then now that's like that's the that's the level, or that's like that's the line in the sand of where you got to kind of cross in order
Yeah.
to get in there. And it's kind of like, damn, it used to be here. It's like, yeah, well, a lot of people did it, so this is
Yeah.
the line in the sand now.
Maybe because of social media, all this stuff will go away, because I
Yeah.
mean, it should have gone away a little bit, but it seems like people still. Maybe that's why people are getting caught now, because social media is kind of letting you just. I mean, you got to work for yourself a lot more, but you can kind of just build your own career,
Yeah.
and nobody can kind of lord anything over you. You can just kind of like just do your own shit, like book your own stuff. If that's I don't know, acting. I think acting you still need to be hired.
Yeah, I
But,
think acting you still create. You could definitely create your own
oh right,
stuff.
yeah, you can make your own movies.
It takes like, that takes effort, and it takes effort and then ingenuity and
Yeah. But you got to work anyway, so it's
yeah.
like you might as well write your own
Right.
stuff.
And also understanding social media, because I think that's like just
Yeah,
that's just is, it just is what it is.
if you're in
And
entertainment, yeah.
yeah, I mean, man, even just business. I mean, at the
Really?
end, like you go into a restaurant, you're
Oh
gonna
yeah,
see
that's
how many
true.
people has give this stars. If
That's true.
only 5 people,
That's true.
if 1,000 people get 5 stars, this is a good place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like
that's true.
social media has embedded itself. I remember talking to this one woman, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm not big social media. This that person. I don't really not into social media." And she's talking about this,
Comic?
not comic, just a
Oh.
regular person out here in Berlin. And then
Mm.
she's like, "Oh yeah, actually, there's one guy. He's like this yoga person. This and that, blah blah." And she's like, "Oh yeah, actually, let me pull up the YouTube." So pull up the YouTube. And he's like, "Oh, see, he has like 1.2 million. This and that, blah blah." I was like,
Confirmation.
I was like,
Yeah.
it's hard for a human being to see 1.2 and disevolve that from
Yeah.
like some value.
Yeah.
1.2 million pennies, even you'd be like, yo, what? Yo,
Yeah.
how'd
Yeah.
you get a million pennies? Like even
Yeah.
a million pennies, you'll be like, what? A million anything is
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
A million leaves. How'd you what?
Yeah.
You have a million leaves? I have a million sticks of butter. How'd you what?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? How'd you get what?
Yeah.
So a million views that has been verified, and you like, whoa, hey, all right.
Yeah.
You can look at that person different. But I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes with social media and stuff. I think it's which this will be on social media.
Yeah. How long have we been on? An hour
uh
30. Wow, that's a
yeah.
lot. Nice.
So actually, one question I'd like to
Yes,
ask you
yes, yes.
before we end. I usually ask people a lot about this, or usually
Yeah, yeah.
ask people at the end, is that you've been through multiple different cultures, right?
Oh,
You've
yeah.
it's from you Bukharian,
Yes.
I mean, I guess Uzbekistanian culture a little, not probably not
Not
really,
really,
yeah,
no.
but
American.
American culture, New York City culture,
Yeah.
also we didn't get into like Jewish culture and
Oh, yeah,
everything
we didn't
too.
really talk about it, yeah.
Stand-up culture. What would
Yes.
be the advice you give to yourself in your younger years? Like,
Um, in my younger it depends on the age.
I mean, whatever age you thought you was going through some cultural differences or something, and you would give your advice to your younger self during those times.
I guess you're not alone, so that's good. You're not alone. So just because you like, I think one thing, I think James Baldwin had this quote where he's like, the thing about an artist is like when you say how you feel and you write it down and then someone else reads it, they feel this way too. It makes people feel less alone. So that's one thing I would tell my younger self. Like just because you're feeling like misunderstood or something like that, it's like that's probably one of the most common feelings in the world to feel misunderstood and stuff. And in terms of, I guess, stand up, calm down. That's what I would say. Like younger me, I would say just calm the fuck down. Like none of this matters. There's another show, there's another mic. Even the person you're talking to will probably quit comedy and you will never have to put any negative energy onto this person anyway. Like the booker that you don't like will quit and you'll never see them again in your life. You won't even remember their name. So don't ever think anything is permanent in comedy because it isn't. Um, yeah, and for stand up, I'll say though, yeah, calm down. This doesn't matter. Um, in terms of what did you say? New York culture?
Yeah, just I mean, just in
Younger
general,
self?
yeah.
Yeah, things like that. In New York, yeah, I would tell myself, I guess, just fucking like get a knife or something. Just fend for yourself, bro. Honestly, fend for yourself. Cops don't give a fuck. I think that's a lot of advice I would give.
Okay.
Is that a lot?
Yeah, no,
That's too many?
No, that's a decent amount. You broke it down in different sections and stuff.
Because you mentioned New York, American culture.
Yeah, just in general, basically. Like it seems like all those together, calming down, realizing that it's not serious. Certain things that are not really as yeah, as serious as it is in that moment. Stand up,
Oh, yeah. So here's one. I guess this goes into calming down. It's like nobody's against you. People are just worrying about themselves. So in the same way that like if you sometimes I mean I or maybe other people at the time were people you think that are kind of like, oh, everybody's like, oh, I'm a rebel, I'm this. It's like, no, you're just everybody's just doing their own thing and you have to realize that you got to do yours and you're not kind of like it's not a slight on you if somebody's worrying about themselves, because they probably got their own shit going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's one thing, which is what like I think you are doing now, and I'm trying to do, which is just like worry about your own happiness and stuff like that. And once you have your core life, like the fundamentals set,
Mm-hmm.
then everything from that can be easier in terms of like, do I have a place to stay? Do I have love in my life? Not love in the terms of partner, but do I have people that care for me, that will that are that will stick by my side if I ever need them or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
These are the core that I think every person needs in their life.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, that's when I start noticing people lashing out and stuff like that. But I think I always had that, but you got to realize that you have that. So
Mm.
that and I think a lot, I don't want to speak cuz some people genuinely don't have that. They don't have love in their life. They don't have like family or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I think I do have that. And then from there you kind of go like, well, let me build off of this, you know? So that's what I would remind my younger self. I'm like, look, people love you. You're fine. Uh, don't sweat the little stuff. And yeah, that's basically what I would say.
Nah, bro, that is
Yeah.
No, thank you very much for sharing that, man. And
No, really, yeah. I think you probably have that. Everybody that I notice, like, that do the right things have those things. Because I notice when you don't have that, you respond through trauma. Like you trauma respond through that, and then you find a partner that you don't really care for, someone that treats you badly or something like that. That's what it usually comes from. Because then you go and like, well, I have this emptiness in me, so I have to find someone to fill this emptiness in me. Or you gotta go like,
mm,
you gotta fill it yourself. Find something, comedy. For us, it's comedy. For us, sometimes it's like acting for you too. I don't really act, but
sure, you could be a nice,
a villain or something.
I ain't want to say that, but
I probably would be a good villain, but find something that'll fulfill that thing in you that you gotta, have in yourself first, and only then will I think that you'll be able to find a partner that'll go like, all right, will this elevate whatever I feel? Because if you just do the negative, where you're like, oh, I'm fucking depressed, then this person will be like, all right, well, I'm gonna help you not feel this way. Well, then now you just become their sponge, or their, that you just put your depression onto them.
mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So yeah, that's a lot of advice.
No,
It's
that's a
probably
it's a very dope advice, man. And
yeah,
as a person that knew you since we started comedy,
yeah, we have, yeah.
yeah, that no, definitely see the growth, man.
Oh, thanks.
Definitely
Yeah,
see the growth, even the
yeah,
way you talking now, because I'm like, oh, damn, this dude, this dude calmer now, which is dope.
yeah. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
therapy works sometimes.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Going through relationships and shit like that. And I think I was talking to someone else about that, where this one, she was talking about a relationship and stuff, and she was talking about whatever. It doesn't matter what she was talking, but I was telling her, I'm like, you gotta what I just said. You gotta, like, the concrete or the fundamentals, you have to worry about that first. It's
Hmm.
the only way you'll find a partner that is actually good for you, is if you know what's good for you.
Right.
That's the only way. Because if you are in a negative state, you will only find someone that's also in a negative state. Because
Mm.
that is what your kind of that's what is fucking the energy shit. This is the energy that you're coming out with, where you're like,
Yeah.
I'm negative, I'm negative, I'm negative. The only people that'll be attracted to that are the negative people. Because why would anyone positive look at some fucking sad fuck in the corner and be like, oh no, I need to save her or something like that's like that's already a negative, where you feel like you
Yeah.
have to save someone.
Right.
Yeah, I remember. I think at one point I did feel that way, and now that I've kind of grown, and I would just see sad people at like a comedy club or at a bar. I'm like, this is grow up. You fucking gross. You're grown.
Wait, wait, what just happened with all the insightful?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Who was so close?
The judgment is still there.
Who was so close?
Grow up.
He was right there. Who was right there?
No, I'm just kidding. I just did that for the laugh, yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah, just going back to the past just for that one last thing.
Just for the last thing. Just to end on a nostalgic note.
Yeah. Grow up.
That's the word of the day. Grow up.
Grow up. Calm down.
He said grow up. Oh man. Well, this is a full circle moment. I mean, in many different ways, but nah, man, it's dope to have you here.
Thank you
the
for having me.
podcast. For anyone who didn't know, we started it, like last year or whatever, and then we kind of, you doing your thing, I did my thing, but it's good to have you back on.
Was it last year? Even longer.
It was a year.
Because you've been here a year
and a half.
So you've been doing, even more.
A year and like 8 months or something like that. Because we started in January, February.
Yeah, when it was cold.
Yeah, I remember we did that, and then
no, but it's good to see that you're still doing it and that things are positively happening for you as a result of your work in this podcast. So I'm happy to see that you're still doing it.
Oh man, thank you, bro.
Yeah, honestly, truly, yeah. I'm happy that it's giving you more opportunities and stuff like that. And then eventually this will probably be its own, just fucking like whatever. What do you call it? The long tail? What'd you say?
Yeah, long tail thing of like eventually, this being a bigger thing.
But this has already been written about too. So it's already in the press and all that shit. So it's inevitable.
Yeah, and then also hearing different stories too. Like, I mean, the Bukharian part, I didn't even know about that and where it comes from. So even learning more about that, I think it's important for people to like know all these aspects of culture and things.
Oh yeah, we didn't really talk. I mean, I guess we did, and then we talked about New York in general and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's more stuff, but I think that's for. I mean, hey, bro, you had some insightful stuff. So whenever you decide to start, doing your own podcast thing or something.
Oh yeah.
Which I mean, that's his own thing. I mean,
podcast is that's a whole other beast.
You probably got out at the right time.
Got out at the right time.
Yeah, bro. This thing called the amount of preparation and everything. But I mean,
people are more connected to you.
Yeah, I would say being on people's podcasts, great. Starting your own podcast, that is
yeah. But eventually it'll, like Joe Rogan, it's not to compare it to the biggest podcast, but Joe, he didn't, like, for the first almost 8 years, he didn't. He just kept doing it.
But he found the right, I think he found that's in the process of editor or whatever.
But you remember how he started? It was just like a split screen, 3 screens in his apartment, and nobody knew what the fuck was going on.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was like, this is already a better setup than how he had it.
You know what's funny?
He had Red Band on a laptop.
Right.
Yeah, it was like dog shit.
You know what's funny now is that we started at a time where there's low expectation for podcasts. Yeah. Whereas like now there's such a,
Oh my God. Like I think Obama's wife, or Michelle Obama, or Obama, for one of them has a podcast.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Every famous person has some type of podcast. So you're competing against like well-known, already did good in the world people.
Yeah.
So like podcasts back in the day was done by, comedians that were just like,
they're not famous and they couldn't make it. So then they just like, what's his name? Theo Vaughn. Yeah. He wasn't able to get anything. So he was like, let me do a podcast.
Right. And look at that now.
It became this,
big. Yeah. So all in due time.
No, it's inevitable. Yeah.
But bro, thank you very much for doing this, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, man.
And guys, thank you for listening and or watching the Third Culture Talk podcast. I'm your boy, Nyan Yenifin. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.